Okay, you guys. Stephanie, Resilient Jenkins, has once again found a way to make her already bad situation even worse. And when I say worse, I mean she's digging a deeper hole in full view of the internet. The public is still loudly demanding answers about her baby Manovah's health, a serious and very real concern that should have been her number one priority. But instead of facing that head on, she's spiraling into rants about name calling, motel hopping, Drew not defending her online, and even trying to stir up sympathy in mom groups.
Step on me? Girl, the videos keep getting crazier and crazier. You're putting your entire life, plus your children's entire life, on social media, and then you're getting mad that we are all concerned about your kids. There is something obviously wrong with that poor baby's cross-eyed. That's a neurological sign or a sign that something is very wrong inside her body. You don't owe us anything, but you owe your children everything.
And while she thinks all of these diversions are clever, in reality, they are just piling up evidence of how misplaced her priorities are. Stephanie Jenkins, aka Resilient Jenkins, is facing massive backlash after viewers noticed concerning signs with her baby Manovah's eyes. Instead of providing medical updates, she goes on Facebook rants about being called Methane, tying it to her postpartum body image and family history with addiction. In mama groups, she shifts focus away from her kids and instead vents about Drew, his exes, and her reputation, often saying she feels mentally depleted from constantly having to defend him. Receipts from Drew's first baby mama, Arlita, show Stephanie allegedly hasn't taken her kids to the doctor since 2021, backed by Dishon's medical records. The family continues motel hopping every 28 days to avoid squatters' rights, turning the cycle into content. She posts about anxiety and exhaustion, but still films the chaos for views. Their PS5 is a constant feature, even when their children lack stable beds and health care. All of this raises questions about whether the struggle is genuine hardship or a content strategy. Here's the problem we're unpacking today. Stephanie keeps rage baiting the public with motel updates and PT posts, while the pressing issues, her baby's health and her children's long-term stability, are ignored and downplayed. Let's start with her Facebook rant, where she said, "Not that anyone gives a toot, but I am so tired of being called Methani. I feel it's something you're bullied for in middle school you just can't ever forget. Honestly, it affects me more than I would like to admit because I'm really struggling with how my postpartum body looks, and I've always stayed away from anything but Mary Jane, especially because I watched people I care about deeply struggle with addiction for years, and it's a path I never went down."
Dude, the comments on this, I don't know. I feel I'm currently pregnant, so I mean, I haven't been through postpartum yet, but I know what it's like to be very self-conscious of the way your body looks. So to like hop on the internet and have just like hundreds of people, maybe even sometimes thousands of people calling you a certain name. I've never called her this name. I just call her by her first name, but I don't know. Kind of makes me feel bad for her. I think it's important to hold her accountable, but I don't think it's important to necessarily bully this woman and make fun of her looks or, call her names. But that's just my opinion. I know people won't necessarily agree with me.
On the surface, it might look like she's being vulnerable, but honestly, it reads like another classic Stephanie diversion. Instead of focusing on her baby, she flips the script back to herself and her own feelings. She even admits she's using marijuana while living in motels with her kids and then expects people to sympathize with her. That's wild when you think about how often she claims they are struggling financially. Those two things don't add up. And when you add in her past excuses like not being able to take the kids to simple outings like urban air because of money, it makes the contradiction stand out even more.
Go to urban air. So I've been planning this out for literally a year, just trying to figure out when I could maybe possibly afford to put it
Because within this year, you got evicted from your apartment.
In our memories. And I think I'm there. I think I finally did it.
She's showing the public a version of herself that wants pity, but the receipts keep showing us choices that don't line up with her words. It's that gap between what she says and what she does that people are reacting to, and it's why the name calling sticks no matter how much she tries to reframe it as bullying. Stephanie connects postpartum struggles to being called Methani, insisting she's not an addict. But the nickname doesn't come from body image. It comes from her choices. When you really sit with it, this is classic Stephanie. She finds a way to put herself back at the center of the story. Instead of keeping the focus where it belongs, on her child's well-being, she redirects the spotlight onto her feelings. She makes it about bullying and body image, hoping people will pity her instead of pressing her with real questions. That move takes the heat off her responsibilities and turns criticism into a sob story. It's how she flips the narrative, framing accountability as cruelty, and in the process, she brushes off the very real concerns people have about her parenting.
Why I will never stop talking about the resilient Jenkins is because of posts like this. Stephanie made a post a couple of days ago saying she's not going to update us on her kids' medical journeys because it's just none of our business. And the very next day makes a post telling us 2 of her daughters are sick. But we're not stupid, Stephanie. You want to give us updates because you're not taking them to the doctor. No problem giving us updates on every other stupid thing going on in your life. Stuff we are concerned about, like your baby going cross-eyed, is weird. I think it's weird for anyone to look at a picture of that baby and think everything is fine. As a mother, how do you not have the urge to say something? Especially when you know this person is not taking their kids to the doctor. Self-diagnosed them in the past multiple times. Stephanie even said her and Drew have a lazy eye and their daughter probably just has a lazy eye. Another reason why I don't think Stephanie wants to talk about it is because it's something that they caused. They'd go to the doctor and they told her this, and this caused your baby to go cross-eyed. Of course she doesn't want to give us that update. It's not normal for a child to spend their entire lives in a motel room. He does not get any stimulation and barely sees the outside world. How any other mother can be in her comments supporting that behavior? Stephanie's being strategic now and not even showing her baby's face. I care less about Methani's lifestyle. I just care about how these kids are going to end up turning out. Because these kids are going to grow up and they're going to see these videos one day. I want them to know we, the people, did not just blindly support their parents' behavior.
That sets the stage for the next receipt, where the same pattern shows up again in a different setting. The second receipt is even shocking. She posted in a mama group. I try to make this group more safe. I feel like Drew could be saying more to defend me. I always have his back, but it doesn't feel mutual. A mama support group turning into a Drew PT forum is wild. Here again, the whole conversation should have been about kids, resources, and real support, but she drags it back to Drew. Instead of talking about her daughter's health or her kids' needs, she's online complaining that Drew doesn't defend her enough. She takes the energy of a whole community of mothers and reroutes it into her relationship drama. The irony is heavy. She calls herself a good mom in this same space, yet the receipts prove otherwise, and her constant focus on Drew completely undercuts that claim. At the end of the day, this isn't about motherhood at all. It is about making sure the spotlight never leaves her.
She has been venting a lot on FB, and she said that Drew does not defend her when it comes to Arlita and Desiree, which are his other BMs. BM means baby mom. Anyways, she has been really venting about Drew. And it's like, girl, one day you're venting, like having your relationship problems, and then the next day you're like defending him on why he shouldn't have to work and provide for 7 people. It's the fact that she's more worried about Drew defending her than going to work. Plus, I think Stephanie is just really upset at the fact that Arlita has said that Drew is not paying child support anymore. And there is nothing to defend about that. And if Drew's other BMs want to vent themselves and talk about their situation and their experience with him, then they're allowed to do so. Like, you're not the only person that has been with him. Y'all know Stephanie just worried about the wrong shit once again.
And when you think she can't push it further, the third receipt lands even harder. Arlita, Drew's first baby mama, exposes Stephanie for not taking the kids to the doctor since 2021, backed by Deshawn's medical records. That's not hearsay. That's documentation. This is the kind of evidence that can't be brushed off. The medical records directly contradict her self-promotion as a good mom. Instead of facing this reality, Stephanie reverts to her usual script. Attack Drew's exes, complain about haters, and seek validation from her audience. The pattern becomes undeniable. Every time accountability comes knocking, she pivots back to her image or her relationship issues. That avoidance tells the story louder than any of her words ever could. Then there is the housing saga, and honestly, this is where things start to feel like a circus. Stephanie films their motel hopping almost like it's a reality show episode, as if constant moving is just quirky content. She explains that they have to move every 28 days to avoid squatters' rights issues, which would technically give them a legal foothold in the motel rooms. Instead of being embarrassed by the instability, she documents the process for views, adding dramatic text overlays as if this were entertainment.
So if you've been following us for a while, you know we have to go to a different motel for one night every 28 days. And it's that time again. Last night I was all enthusiastic. I was going to film the whole thing. Maybe even pop up on live to just how you guys pack up with me and whatever. But I'm going to be real with you. This whole process just depletes me every time. Like, what the? Yeah, but on the plus side, I have a pretty decent room this time, so it's actually, dare I say, nicer than the one we're staying in. I always just feel like I cannot stay clean enough during this process. I think it's just my anxiety trying to be like, staying clean will help you feel better. I mean, the carpet's kind of dirty, but like, this place is actually bigger than the spot that we're staying in. I kind of, like, what? Look at this. So while we were packing up, I quickly made I was trying to make some monster cookies and my butt forgot the freaking peanut butter. So they're going to be chocolate chip oatmeal cookies, I guess. And I wanted to try to make them something that just kind of felt familiar for this process again. Yep, grilled air fryer. I mean, it smells like it's gonna be promising. Mind you, I didn't measure anything. I just went with my heart on this. I mean, they don't look half bad, but we'll have to see how they taste.
Just dip it and strip it, and you'll be grilling in no time. Clean toner off this $100,000 car faster than you can say. Make just one foul spot.
At one point, she writes on screen, "Mentally, my brain is still swimming through peanut butter whenever we do these overnights. I just don't do well with changing routine, but I do what I can to just keep going."
Stephanie Jenkins, you are talking about 28 days later like it is part of a certain franchise that has people that are, eating other people. All you have to do is move from one night, from one small apartment to a slightly bigger apartment overnight just because you don't want to get a house. Oh, it takes so long to get a house or to get a home. Stop. No, it doesn't. If you are an adult who's making about $10,000 a month, and you don't pay for home, you don't pay for your groceries, you're on WIC, like, it doesn't take that long. It does not. It's not like she has any, like, physical pressing things that are stopping her, any barriers. She's lazy. She doesn't want to get a job. She's used to this life where everything is handed to her, and she thinks that she can just kink breed multiple times. Sorry, not sorry. But there are repercussions, and I feel sorry for your babies. Let's get back to the 28 days later. She has to basically, according its law in Oregon, she has to go from her little motel shelter to another one for just one night so that she doesn't claim some kind of like lease rights, squatters rights, whatever. And so she's making these monster cookies that are truly the tragic, like they're so tragic and so sad. She brings her little air fryer, and I'm gonna put pictures, but what do you think? Like,
that line is telling, because rather than seeing this as motivation to push for permanent housing, she frames it as a quirky, relatable struggle. She proudly showed off her new motel room, one that only had 2 beds for a family of 7. Realistically, that means some of the kids are sleeping on the floor, on carpets she herself admitted were dirty. Compare that to their previous room, which at least had a bunk bed, a queen bed, and a pull-out sofa. By moving into a smaller setup, she shows once again how little thought goes into her kids' comfort, prioritizing content over their needs. And then comes the PS5. The console, of course, made another appearance. Stephanie even wrote, "Yes, we bring the PS5 with us, everyone. It gets used for Mrs. Rachel the entire time we are here." But seconds later, the reality was obvious. Drew was glued to the PS5, not Mrs. Rachel, while toddler Atlas, Booba, wandered the room aimlessly in the background. The priorities speak for themselves. And remember the last motel? She told viewers there was pee on the ceilings. Instead of demanding better conditions, she and you filmed themselves scrubbing the bathroom ceiling like this was just another skit. The absurdity of calling all this content speaks volumes. She spends her time and energy filming chaos instead of fighting for stability. And let's not forget, we're now almost 8 months into this motel hopping cycle. At first, some viewers might have excused it as temporary, but after this long, the lack of progress is glaring and impossible to ignore. Here's the big picture. By ranting about Methani, venting in mama groups, and flaunting motel upgrades, Stephanie keeps pulling attention away from the only thing people really want to know: what's going on with her daughter's health. If she had simply taken Manovah to a doctor and shared the results, the questions would have ended immediately. Instead, she chose to create noise, and that noise works like a smoke screen. 8 months of motel hopping later, and there is still no sign of progress. Why? Because the motel shuffle itself has become the storyline. The struggle is the content. Every move, every complaint about the carpet or the ceilings becomes another post. If she locked down a stable home, the narrative would vanish, and with it, a big piece of her engagement. So staying stuck actually benefits her content cycle. Her mama group rants aren't harmless venting, they are calculated. By painting herself as misunderstood and unfairly targeted by haters or Drew's exes, she wins sympathy points. That sympathy turns into defenders who argue on her behalf, even when the receipts point to neglect. It's not just conversation, it's recruiting people into her corner. So the big picture here is simple. Stephanie isn't just overwhelmed, she's deliberately leaning into the chaos, packaging it and using it as a way to stay relevant and keep people talking about her. Every diversion looks like an excuse. Viewers now assume she's hiding something. Motel living, ignored doctor's visits, and chaotic conditions put her kids directly in the danger zone for intervention. Even her supporters are tired of seeing recycled motel drama, excuses, and PS5 clips. Her diversions were supposed to distract, but instead, they highlight the very neglect she's trying to cover up. Well, this is why it matters. This isn't just influencer gossip. It's children growing up in unstable, unhealthy environments where their mother films content to deflect. Here's my verdict. Stephanie Jenkins is drowning in her own She desperately wants the title of good mom, but her actions, the Merryday news, the motel lifestyle, the Drew obsession, and the medical neglect all prove the opposite until she steps up, gets baby Manovah the care she deserves, and provides her kids with stability. Everything else is just smoke and mirrors. At the end of the day, Methani isn't a cruel nickname. It is a reflection of how the public perceives her actions. So what do you think? Is Stephanie intentionally dragging this out for clout? Or is she in denial about how bad things really are? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to subscribe, because if history tells us anything, this saga is only going to get messier.